Well, awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Mind Your Tokens and Cents, managing AI spend with CloudHealth. A couple of housekeeping items before I hand it off. One, please use our chat if you are having issues. That chats directly with the hosts and panelists. If you have specific questions that you don't want public, use that. If you have questions that you probably think other people have about any of the content, please use the Q&A. Those will be recorded. We'll either answer those live. We do have some time at the end. We also have time throughout the presentation for questions. But use the Q&A so we can track that, make sure we get those answered appropriately. Joining me today, we do have a couple of additional panelists. So Cathal, I am going to run through agenda and then I will hand it right to you. Cathal Cleary, our head of product, as well as Sanjna Srivatsa, our product manager and data scientist. Jared is still joining us. He is still here. So if you're looking forward to hearing from Jared, he is still hopping on and will be answering questions. But Cathal and Sanjna will be leading us. Today, we're going to be talking through kind of AI spend management as we get ready for FinOps X. We'll talk about the problem space, kind of the solution, why we need it. We'll be doing some demo, some optimization strategy. Like I said, we have time for questions and answers. But Cathal, I'm going to hand it to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, TJ. And hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining. It's really exciting to see so many of you here. Obviously, AI is a hot topic, and we're here to help you understand what we're doing and how we can help you in CloudHealth and just give some overall tricks and tips. So we'll go through all that. I'm really excited about the demo. We released a feature on Friday last week, and it is hot off the press. So Sanjna is going to show that. So I think the problem space is well understood, and I think this is the state of FinOps data from the start of the year. And quite honestly, it's probably out of date already, but it certainly showed at that point in time that understanding the full scope of AI spending was a top concern for a lot of the FinOps respondents in that survey. And I think that's just gotten more and more, right? That AI is becoming so prolific in all of our lives right now, and it's happening so fast, and the rate of growth is so fast that I think AI spending is very quickly catching up to public cloud spending, and it's happening much faster than it did back in the the 2010s when public cloud spending became a concern first. So AI is a similar space. AI is a similar spend concern, but it's happening way faster at much higher scale, and hence it's a real concern for a lot of people across the world. So if we we look at some of the headlines, and some of these headlines are like days old, May 28th, right? Axios published a nice sort of summary article about AI sticker shock and how it's hitting corporate America. And this really came from the fact that some of the model providers are quite most of the model providers started to change their cost model from a per seat model where you could buy a subscription and use as much as you wanted across to a unit-based price model. You can see here, GitHub Pilot announced it first. Then Anthropic changed some of their pricing strategy a couple of weeks ago. So, this change is happening. And the resulting outcome of that is that, well, we had this phenomenon called token maxing, where companies were really pushing their employees to use more and more tokens, use more and more AI, try and just, throw enough stuff at the wall and see which experiments will work and see which experiments are successful. And, 80-90% of that maybe was just people having their AI agent tell them what the weather was on a daily basis, right? That kind of thing, that kind of behavior in AI is probably beginning to phase out now that we can see that we're moving from that nice, flat, predictable per seat model across to a much harder to manage token model. And one that hit the press in the last couple of days, I think over the weekend, and it was the talk of the Snowflake Summit yesterday, was this idea that a client accidentally spent $500 million in 1 month on Claude after forgetting to set usage limits on their usage of Claude. So that it's a very scary story. Is it true? Is it not true? We don't know, but for sure, it's definitely backing up the fact that we need to put some guardrails on AI to make sure that we don't run up that massive bill, which was, in all of our lives, it was the cloud bill in the past. Now it's becoming the AI bill. So, go ahead, TJ. So that era of subsidization is ending if it's not already ended. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you think about your $200 per seat plan on any of the popular foundation models, you could do as much as you wanted on that foundation model for that. It was really an all you could eat license model, and the AI providers obviously were losing money on that. The cost of producing all of those tokens for you at that flat rate was a loss making enterprise for them. We know that a lot of the foundation models like Anthropic have just lodged their paperwork for IPO. So the foundation model providers are looking, number one, to make profits, and number two, to launch on the market. They want to see big valuations, big prices on the open market for their companies. So it's obvious that subsidization, losing money on AI for model providers has ended, which means that it's harder on us to manage. It's harder on us to plan and understand and put guardrails on it. Go ahead, TJ. So there will be strategic advantages here for the early movers. Think about it, and again, back to that story of the potential $500 million bill when you don't put the guardrails. That obviously it would be a huge deal for any one of us here in terms of our budgets, our IT budgets, our AI budgets. So there could be a scare response to that. We could have organizations that will say, you know what, I'm just going to shut this down completely. I'm going to pause. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to let the control catch off. But really, that's not giving you an advantage. So the early movers in this space will have the advantage that they have well-controlled, well-planned AI projects that come in at budget or under budget, and they are able to move to the market and get their products to the market and get their competitive advantage to the market earlier than everybody else. But it needs to be done, number one, in a managed way. So make sure you're moving from this experimentation phase to a more managed phase. That will de-risk the project so that you don't have the risk of your budget being entirely consumed or just pulled from underneath you when you have your AI projects ongoing. And like I said earlier, we all have an advantage. The solid foundation that we built on FinOps is perfectly well suited to managing the AI environment as well. So all those practices that we know in the FinOps landscape will serve us. And you'll see when we talk about the optimization strategies a little later that we will take this back to our organizations and use those practices, use those strategies to help us manage the spend in a much more controlled fashion.
Yeah, so tokenomics, right? It's such a crazy word that we've been hearing more recently. As of 2 hours ago, the Linux Foundation has announced intent for a tokenomics foundation, and TJ, if you please, will share the link on my behalf with everyone. So but if you still Google the word tokenomics today, I checked, you will still find this as a screenshot, right? So tokenomics has fundamentally kind of been a cryptocurrency word. Tokens in crypto are finite and a completely different ball game than the one we are talking about. In FinOps, we're trying to kind of make this word our own. And I mean, clearly with the Tokenomics Foundation, we're really doubling down on that vision. But this is the tokenomics that we're going to talk about today. We've heard of token maxing, just like Cathal kind of mentioned, right? Like companies like Amazon having leaderboards in their company to see who uses the most tokens. We've also sure have all seen those posts on LinkedIn where people boast about how they're the top 1% of Anthropic users, and Anthropic sent them a special email, invited them to some hackathons that are only for the top 1%. And so like this kind of and the boasting of look at how much money I spent over tokens. This era is quickly getting over. We can measure we can definitely measure things in tokens, right? Like there's different attributes to tokens. No, tokens are not all built to be the same. My favorite quote from one of my colleagues in the AI working group in the FinOps Foundation is t-shirt sizes are also not standardized, right? Like but they really help understand what is the spectrum of size. Just like that, I think tokens, it obviously not all tokens are built the same. It depends on if it's cached, if it's batched, if it's input versus not, if it is a text, or if it's a word. So there's definitely differences here. It's not standardized, but it brings more to the conversation than if it weren't in the conversation. So we can measure with tokens, and we can check our value with tokens. What else can we measure with? Um, we have, yep, so currency, right? Like, so currency is great for things like that. When is currency a better measure to bring to the conversation, though? So let's think about measuring ROI. Measuring AI ROI is a huge topic. Everyone's still learning, and we've gotten so far. But let's say you walk into a budget meeting and you report that we've generated 500 million tokens this month. That means nothing to the people in the room. So what do we say? We say that we've spent $500 to ship this feature that customer X requested. They were a churn risk, and so we saved an ARR of $500,000 by shipping this customer X feature faster. You can also say I've saved we've had document summarized that process has kind of saved 5,000 reading hours, which would have otherwise translated to X amount of dollars. Support calls answered, if a machine answered it versus a human answering it was had about $10,000 of difference. So this is how we kind of bring that to the conversation. We can't have this conversation without currency. Next is unit economics or unit cost analysis, right? Like, so this is where we get a little tactical. Tokens don't really tell you which job is doing better or which provider is quote unquote winning. But when you measure unit cost, you can see how a training job in AWS SageMaker, for example, would stack up against Azure machine learning. So if one costs $30, the same training job costs $30 in X versus maybe $90 in the other one. It kind of helps you optimize to understand the cost of intelligence, right? Like at a more granular level, which you would pick. And then comparing models and providers, so basically parity. In a multi-cloud environment, currency becomes like your North Star. It helps you normalize and then kind of uh, basically across different ecosystems like Bedrock, Vertex AI, OpenAI. You kind of when you're comparing across the framework, you have currency for that conversation. All right. So what can CloudHealth do for you, right? This is something that I'm very proud of releasing. We are going GA on Friday, which is why we had this meeting today to kind of get everyone excited and prepped for what's coming up in CloudHealth. There are a few AI views we can show right off the bat, and I will demo it in just a little bit. But we just to set the stage, these are some AI views that we have and help you in your cost storytelling. We're able to help you compare your models. We will show you the cost per million tokens or tokenomics as you would, which helps you compare the unit cost across models. Also helps you understand how you're doing with caching. So what is your rate of input versus output? How much is cache read write? Your processing mode. So batching straight up saves money, and we will talk a little bit more about that in our optimization portion of today. But batching saves money. How do you kind of track your trends of batching? GPUs. So GPUs are very expensive. The same reason we kind of track instances on its own, we track GPUs on its own as well. So we'll tell you a little more about your GPU costs. And I'm gonna take over for demo. Want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Give me 1 second.
Now, Sanjna gets that ready. I think, just to link this back to what we said about the solid substrate of FinOps being your friend here, right? And really what we're doing with the AI dashboard is giving you the information. It's in the inform phase. It's like, you need data to have conversations. Well, here's how you get the data. Now arm yourself with the understanding and the education, and you can go have conversations.
Yeah, awesome. Cue the fireworks, I guess. So here is our here is our dashboard. I honestly have not been this excited about one of my releases in a while. That's what I'm very excited about. Also, my kind of training in data science kind of really helps this kind of be close to my heart, and I'm happy to be releasing this. Very proud of this. You will see AI and tokenomics in about 2 days in all of your CloudHealth platforms. It will look like this, and it's right here. What you see here is demo data, of course, but I'm going to kind of walk you through the story of this tenant. All right, so it is just another dashboard. So you have all of the fun dashboarding capabilities, but you can see that there are slices of data across different perspectives. So I'm able to understand my cost per provider, subcategory and everything. But let's say I'm a practitioner, I'm waking up in the morning, my manager is really pissed off about me with me because we've been spending all this money on AI for the last couple of months and I haven't had a handle on things. So I'm going to come in here and see if this dashboard will tell me where to get started. So it looks like I'm spending a lot on Azure. It looks like all of we've been kind of quiet with the AI ML world for the past few months, but from April we've kind of really kicked it up a notch. I'm seeing that we're using way too many models, so many models. Yeah, 50 plus. So I'm seeing that our engineers are getting really busy and kind of playing around with all of them. Spending a ton on hardware as well. It's using a lot of GPUs. I'm looking at them and it looks very familiar. Yeah, okay, so there's a lot of Azure usage to make sense. There's NCNV. We not as much cached and not as much batch as well, which makes sense because we're fairly newer to the journey, it looks like. So I'm going to dive a little deeper. I need something to tell my boss, so I'm going to see if this can help me do that. I'm going to exclude the current month just so that I'm able to tell the story better.
Sanjna, in the dashboard, good on let's look at processing mode. Good would look like a mixture of standard processing and batch processing. Is that right? There's some sort of ratio there.
Absolutely, yeah. So for a more mature practice, you would have seen. I'll bring that up. For a more mature practice, and it makes sense if you're just starting off, but for a more mature practice, of course, we would have seen more caching, more batching. Having entirely not batched is a sign of a novice, so you don't want to be that. You want to make sure that you're batching stuff. Anything that you know don't need real time. Like if you want a bunch of your emails summarized when you wake up in the morning, or if you have a bunch of documents you want summarized, anything that you are willing to wait for more than a second. So it's not even like days. So if you're willing to wait more than a second, you would need to do batching. And all of these are the kind of things that you want to check out for. And even here,
And
right? Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to ask you about cache details. It looks like there's a lot of input tokens here on a daily basis. Like that's also telling me something, right?
Yeah, inputs and outputs are charged differently, and we'll get into all of those details in our optimization story. But yeah, they're charged differently. It is fine for you to have this. Tells me that the context window is really high. Like I'm setting
And
a lot of
then
context for not a lot of output.
finally the cost per million tokens. Obviously, if I look at that chart, I can see what are the models that I should kind of be using less of because they're really expensive, and what are the models that I should be using more of.
Yeah, for sure. You need to be very judicious when you're using the more expensive ones, for sure. Yeah, there might be a reason why you're using it. And I see that you're using this particular story. They used 4.0, which is a multimodal, more versatile model, which makes sense because if you see there's like image to image and like a lot of that stuff that they're doing. They're doing text embedding and they're doing yeah. So this makes sense. So these guys are not just text; they're also multimodal.
And 4.0 has really taken off in the last couple of weeks, really. So that's again, that's a signal you can look out for. It's like, okay, we've pivoted to a brand new model here. It's multimodal. There's something going on. I should try and break this down by team and see where this is coming from, and then go have a conversation about have you launched a new application? Have you launched a new initiative? Tell me about it. What are you doing? And so on and so forth. So again, you're being armed with data to go have conversations.
100%, 100%. Thank you for that. Okay, so I'm here. I want a little more. So this is not everything I need. I just the services alone are not telling me much. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna manage columns. Let me see what kind of data do I want. I'm
So
going
now
to.
you've dived into a standard report and you're beginning
Mhm.
to dive into the data, right? And you've narrowed it down to the last 2 months. You can see the types of services that are being used, but now you need to learn a little bit more about their usage, right?
Yeah, I want to learn a little more. So I'm gonna come in here and add a little more color to just the services itself. I see the names of the services here, but this is going to help me learn a little more. Okay, so what do I have here? So I have search, which is really high. I have cognitive search. I have SageMaker. I have. Okay, so there's a few interesting things here that I think I want to dive a little deeper into. So let me start with cognitive. I'm going to start with cognitive, which is a Azure AI service. So I'm going to go to Smart Summary because I know that gives me the breakdown right off the bat. Let me go to Azure for a second. Um, and I'm going to try to filter on. Oh, sorry. Yep, right there. All right, so let's see how. Okay, so this is a high costing service. It seems to have had a jump the last month. I'm gonna click and see exactly how much the change is. Great. So what am I doing in cognitive services? So if I'm going to talk to these guys, I want to know what they're doing. So it looks like they have a bunch of foundry models by OpenAI. They have a bunch of input and output tokens there, which makes sense. They're also doing some speech and document intelligence. So again, multimodal, right? Like so this is again the name of the model that we saw previously in the dashboard. So I'm able to tie that in here. And GPU 2 has really taken off, and I'm seeing that trend here. The usage has increased, and I'm able to see just by how much the usage has increased here. Yeah, so it's
And for
significant, right?
anybody looking at this that doesn't recognize this, we're obviously in the new experience of CloudHealth. Sanjna started with the reporting experience, and you saw her turn on and off the match chart. So all these are relatively new features. Don't worry if you don't recognize them; they are there, they are available. You can use them today. The new feature is the AI dashboard. But Sanjna, this is smart summary, right? And this is giving you the change, so you can see the cost change month over month here. You can see whether it was usage increase or decrease. You can see whether RIs or savings plans applied. So if you're not familiar with this, go take a look at the new experience.
Yes, please, please. This is where all the magic's happening. Um, yeah, so we're kind of making some progress here and getting to know our data a little better. I can just click and see if I want to know who I want to talk to, what resource ID is. I can come in here and figure that out in a second, which is great.
And you have a
Uh,
subscription ID as well there. So if you've divided up your spend by subscription,
yeah.
you kind of can trace that back to, well, who wants that subscription? Maybe I need to go talk to that person.
Exactly. And then I have my really priced unit cost that I can measure here, which gives me right out the bat how much I'm spending on this. And I'm able to track my changes in unit cost as well. Okay, and so something else that I saw on the in my report previously was SageMaker. So I'm going to go back here. That's an AWS service. I'm going to click apply. I see. So I see SageMaker here. Okay. So I'm going to click on that. Yeah, so I see some increase here as well. I don't know too much about SageMaker, so I want to learn more. So I'm going to turn on my Intelligent Assist recommendations and Cathal, for people who don't know what Intelligent Assist is, it is our AI engine on the platform that helps you connect with the model and ask questions. So I'm going to do exactly that.
So you're seeing FinOps for AI and AI for FinOps all in one place.
We released this a little over a year and a half ago, so this has been creating magic since then.
And we have some exciting updates coming to that very soon as well. So more to come on Intelligent Assist very, very shortly. You'll notice it's still experimental. We're quickly moving out of that phase.
CloudHealth is moving at the pace of AI, moving really fast. Every day you blink and then we have something new. Yeah, so now this is going to kind of help me have my conversation with my engineers a little more. Where I'm seeing kind of costs grow up, and I want to learn as I'm going with it. Just what are some things I can do? A lot of engineers leave their notebook instances unused, and so we want to delete them. A lot of what applies to instances, because this is also T3. Uh, I need to do here. One thing I'm going to give them kudos for is I'm seeing that T2 has stopped, so they're using less of T2 and more of T3, which is great because we have modernization of my instance. I also
Just a
want
shout out
to,
for just a quick shout out for the normalized cost there, Sanjay. So that's normalizing it across days of the month and how you're paying for it. So if you're paying for it through some
yeah.
sort of a commitment discount, it will tell you your normalized cost came down because of a commitment discount versus it was 28 days in February and there was 31 days in March. So it will normalize for days as well, right?
It's normalized for everything. So it's normalized for days of the month, especially because we're looking at a monthly view. In daily and weekly wouldn't matter as much. it normalizes for things like GB month and like these unique pricing units. So depending on if your provider is charging you per month, per hour, per second, so we normalize for stuff like that as well.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm also interested in understanding what accounts have kind of have seen the biggest swing, and so it just takes me in a click of a button. I can just kind of check. Okay, so a lot of changes positively are happening in this account, but there's some increase in cost in this account as well. So it really arms me for any conversation that I want
And then
to
you have
have.
the same click through, right? You can just click the link and it'll bring you into the smart summary, but
Yeah.
it's filtered out by that account.
Yeah, we've always wanted that. We've always wanted that. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I'm
Fantastic.
coming back to the dashboard here now, and everything makes so much more sense. I'm feeling armed in like under 5 minutes to have this AI conversation with my team and bring some more insights to my leadership. We will now talk about some optimization strategies that we as FinOps folks and practitioners can also bring to the table. TJ, if you want to take over sharing for me again.
Before we hop into the next section, there's one question. Will this new AI portion cover other items in addition to cloud, such as SaaS, NeoCloud, private cloud hardware, data center? So the answer is yes. The thing with the AI model data is it lives where you transact. So what you saw in this demo was the data from all the public cloud providers. We also just recently released an OpenAI Data Connect. So if you are directly transacting with OpenAI, you can go get those data. We do already support Databricks and Data Connect. And you'll start to see us release more and more of these data connectors for things like Anthropic, Cursor, potentially Copilot, though most of that spend is already captured within Azure.
100%. Thanks, Jared.
All right. So we've now armed you with the data. You now have a good idea of who's doing what and how are they using it and how are they optimizing it? What kind of strategies can we see that they're employing through the dashboard? But we want to do more, right? We're not finished there. And I think one of the big things that we can see people wanting to do is user level attribution. So we want to be able to see not only who are the users, but what departments do they belong to? What are the departments spending? What are the GM spending? If a GM is responsible for a budget, well, then that GM wants to know where's that budget going? Who's using it? How are they using it? What value are we getting from it? And to do that, we need to enrich the data that we're getting from the clouds. As Jared just mentioned, we've got the OpenAI connector, we've got the Databricks connector. But again, all that is giving us a certain amount of information from the provider, but not necessarily the deep information that we need about the users and about the sources and about the intent. So in order to get that, we need to go a little bit deeper. And our strategy is, well, we think that this deployment model that you can see in the picture is probably going to be a common enterprise deployment model where you have agents, you have users, and they will sit behind some sort of LLM proxy or LLM gateway. And that LLM gateway is probably outputting a lot of trace information. And that trace information is an absolute gold mine of information about how is our organization using AI. The most popular way to do that in the telemetry space is a thing called open telemetry. Think about Focus, but for telemetry, right? It is a standard on how these loggers output traces, how those traces are aggregated, and what kind of information you can get from it, how you can translate that through to things like waterfall diagrams, where you can see where the call started, where it went to, how it moved on through the stack. So open telemetry, we think, is going to be a huge source of that rich information for us to get even deeper into how is AI being used in our enterprise. And then we can start to work out, well, what was the user and what was the intent? Once we have the user, we're going to want to be able to think about things like, well, am I going to budget per user? We've seen it, not everywhere, but I think one or two organizations will think about budget per user. It's much more likely that you're going to think about budget per organization. So how do we manage the and by organization I mean the subunit or the business unit within the enterprise? So how am I going to allocate a number of tokens to a business unit? How am I going to track that spend? We want to be able to do it, and this is where we think the open telemetry data is going to enrich what we already have to help us do that. So you'll be able to set those budgets, you'll be able to track those budgets, and we think this will really drive that efficiency mindset down into the organization. So again, think back to the early days of public cloud. Everybody was swiping their credit cards and just spinning up public cloud accounts, and then all of a sudden you had sprawl of EC2 instances and sprawl of storage and so on and so forth. And FinOps came in to put some management on that. We're just doing the same thing with AI today, right? So you're driving that efficiency culture into the organization so that this scarcity that is now beginning to come to the fore of tokens will be something that everybody has in their mind that they want to think about, not about token maxing, but token efficiency. How do we drive token efficiency? So these capabilities will help you drive that culture into your organization. And finally, we want to be able to help you drive those optimization strategies into the organization as well. So we got to think about, well, what are the optimization strategies, and how do I first take that data, have the conversation, knowing what the optimization strategies are. And back to you, Sanjna.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The days of token maxing are over, and thank God for that. I never quite liked it. But now let's talk about token optimization strategies. How do we really bring value to every token we spend? The question for you all is, how many times have you opened a Gemini or a GPT and asked a question, and then just chosen a higher end model because you feel like a better model might just automatically give you a better answer? I sure as hell have done that. So now what if I told you that this decision of moving from a lightweight model, like possibly a Flash, that it usually preloads with a light model. So you already had that, and now you move to a powerful model like a Pro, and that decision just cost you 15x for not much of an improvement in response. That would have been a much easier decision to stick to the lightweight model if we knew that, right? Especially as we're moving away from a flat rate to paying for what you use. A lot of the companies as well have kind of had this growth at all costs mode where you see people almost kind of brute forcing their way into AI, choosing the smartest, choosing the best, everything uncached, like we need to move really fast. This is where we have to swing the pendulum back from token maxing and into equilibrium. How do we optimize, and how do we make sure we are spending the right way? So these are three.
Sanjna, if we think back to the dashboard, we had that cost per million tokens widget, right? Where you could see, well, which model is costing me the most and which is costing me the least. And that's a really great guide to show you, which model is kind of in the middle of that road that we should be looking for better ratios on. And think about, well, what's my ratio of model usage? That's another great metric to look at. Is like, well, am I thinking I should be 80% on the middle of the road model and 15% on the high end and 5% on the low end? Well, if that's a ratio you want to maintain, well, then we'll set up a widget for that ratio, and that's something you can monitor at the macro level.
And these are things you have in, like there's information out there on how to choose the right model, right? Like this is not something that you only have to stick to the lower end or the middle end or the higher end. You can absolutely choose the right. All we're saying is choose the right model for the job. If you do indeed have heavy text, heavy voice to video, for example, these are expensive items. And like if you need to do this, or if you're doing complex code parsing, you are absolutely free to use a more expensive model. These kind of tasks will cost you more for better results, but it is important for you to make sure that you're not using a sonnet for a simple question. All we're saying is just be mindful of model selection. I'll get into why, right? Frontier models like we saw GPT-4o, so I'm going to talk about that. They're great, like really strong, very powerful models. You use them for when you need things like processing like your tax returns, for example. If you wanted AI to do that for you, you would use a frontier model. I'm going to give you approximate costs here, and so an input token in a frontier model like that would cost you about $5 per million tokens. Outputs even more expensive, it would be about $15. But if you were to have drop down a value tier, for example, you go with the lightweight model, something that comes preloaded in most of these things, that is in this case, it would be a GPT-4o mini. Or if you're a Claude user, it would be a Haiku, or if you're a Gemini user, it would be a Flash. So that the difference now is that this is 15 cents per million input tokens. So it's a huge difference, right? Like this is, in this case, is 50x almost, I think. Yeah. So you will see anywhere a difference of like 10x to 50x of cost difference. These are crazy numbers, right? Like imagine if before the world of AI, if we were talking in just purely FinOps terms and saying this thing could save you like 10x the cost, we would do that in a heartbeat. We've never been used to those kind of numbers. So we're really very much in that era here. the model selection is the single most you can do for your cost. The right model for the right job. There is no escaping that. Um, then we have compress, cache, and retrieve. Like so, compression is very very new. And TJ, if you will help me with the link again. So this thing that I stumbled upon yesterday was by a Netflix engineer doing it's doing like in the world of open source is just kind of doing its wonderfulness again, right? I saw this GitHub was this repo was trending yesterday at number one. He basically has come up with his own compression techniques it's fantastic. So if this capabilities like these now that are augmenting caching and retrieving. Caching itself is really great. Like if you can do prompt caching and you have to have a high hit rate, please, there is no reason why you shouldn't be caching. It cuts the cost of repeated tokens by like 50 to even 80% sometimes. Compression helps as well. It basically doesn't even let the LLM see a good amount of your prompt context if that is bloated, and that does happen.
A conversation we had yesterday, in my amateur AI mind, I said, how does compression help? Like, I mean, if you zip something, it just becomes gobbledygook, right? But it's not what's going on here, right?
That's not what's going on here at all. Yeah. So compression in the AI world is different. It doesn't almost abstracts a lot of the context window to your LLM. So it doesn't if your context is this large, it makes it this large. So when the LLM sees it, so it has to process lesser. It's reducing the workload there.
And it doesn't lose any of the the importance of that prompt for the LLM. So you're distilling down what could be a massive context window to something much smaller, but the output and the results are pretty much the same.
Exactly right. And all of this is new cutting edge stuff, right? Like, so the stuff that was just released, he's done some really wonderful stuff there. And we absolutely should expect more of this stuff coming out from smart people around us. Batch processing. So we've alluded to this a little bit before. If you don't need it real time, you need to batch. This is really not that complicated. Batching can approximately give you a 50% discount, and like if we are looking at numbers like 50%, 80%, 10x, 20x, these are conversations that should just be had. Like there should be very, very little reason why we're not doing these things. These are fundamentally processes that we would need to follow in almost everything that we deploy. If you are not using something real time, you have to batch them. Half off for just waiting a couple more seconds, right? There's no reason we wouldn't do that.
All right. Thank you, Sanjna. Some good tips there on optimization strategies. And again, remember, it's about conversations. So educate yourself on those three, educate yourself on other ones that you feel are appropriate to your organization. And again, it gives you that ability to go and have those conversations. So in summary, what did we show you today? Well, I think number one is everybody should take solace in the fact that we are FinOps practitioners. We know how to do this, right? This is not new. The fundamentals and the substrate, as we call it in the foundation, substrate is the same. The principles are the same. So, but what do you got to do? You obviously have to catch up on the context and what is this new thing that we're trying to drive more value on. So, education. That's why you're all here, right? We're trying to learn as a community together about what are the things that we need to understand about AI and how can we help our constituents drive better value out of that AI. So, education is definitely number one. The second is the data, right? You've got to inform yourself with the data. You've got to understand how people are using AI, which clouds they're using, which models they're using, what type of inputs and outputs. Are they doing caching? Are they doing batching? All of that is in the new dashboard that we're publishing. So the CloudHealth AI dashboard is a great place to start to understand that. And as Sanjna showed, you can dive even deeper to start breaking that down into organizations and users and accounts and so on using Smart Summary. And then the third is start the conversations. You're probably already having your monthly or maybe your weekly BU meetings to talk about FinOps. So bring these conversations into those meetings. Discuss what the use cases are, discuss what the patterns are, and bring that context back to your optimization strategies. And then you can start to say, well, we should think about these strategies and again, have that conversation, get that conversation going. And finally, what we all do is monitor how that progress is going and report the savings. And obviously we have a realized savings dashboard that will help you there as well. So monitor what you're doing, monitor the savings, and report that back to management so they can see some progress there. And finally, as you can see from what we're sharing here, we're not stopping. We've got the visibility, we've got great visibility with the dashboard, but we have more to do, as I explained, with the open telemetry and the data enriching. So our roadmap is moving. We're moving on, and we're aggressively going after the AI management space. And look out for more roadmap updates on that very soon. And with that, there's a great opportunity to come talk to us next week. So if you're going to be at FinOpsX, please scan the QR code, fill out the form, and we will be happy to meet you one-on-one, or you can come see us at our booth. We're at booth E8 in the expo hall. Again, happy to have these conversations. If you want to dive deeper on demos, anything like that, let us know. If you're not at FinOpsX, you can scan this anyway, and we will find a time to meet you virtually via Zoom or any other method that you prefer. So again, happy to hear from you all, and happy to have those conversations. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I think we have some time for questions.
Yeah, as we're wrapping.
So sorry, TJ, just a plug there. Just if you're at FinOpsX, I will be speaking with Applied Materials on the stage on the 10th. So please come meet us and come listen to us.
Yeah, as we're wrapping up, please throw any questions into Q&A. We've had some great ones. Jared, I'll throw you on the spot. Were there any questions that you wanted to maybe expand on that were asked, or Cathal or Sanjna?
Yeah, so there's a couple questions around where and when this will be available. So kind of our rule of thumb going forward at CloudHealth is most of the new features you see will be new experience only. So all of the AI cost management, the new data connects, those are all going to be new experience only features. And then in terms of when this is released, the OpenAI connector is live today. And Sanjna, if you want to confirm the timeline for the AI dashboard.
The AI dashboard will be on everyone's screens on Friday.
Friday. Perfect.
Beautiful. I think I said at the start that we already released it, but we release so much these days, it's like I lose track. We had our monthly release last Friday. There was a whole bunch of stuff in there. Please do check out the product updates, or check out our blog, check out our community. We always publish information about what our updates are there. And I totally lose track, and we have another release coming this Friday with another exciting focus dashboard as well, right, Sanjna? Am I giving too much away here?
No, we have our focus report, data set, and the AI stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so two exciting new features this Friday, just in time for FinOpsX. Who knew that there would be an avalanche of features just before FinOpsX? But there you go. Our engineers have been burning the midnight oil for sure.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll give you a couple minutes back. Everyone has put their emails in chat, so please, if you have questions directly, please reach out. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing some of you in San Diego next week. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out either to our PMs or via the contact us form. We look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.